Hi, welcome to Being Beta. Well, today I'm going to be putting a worktop in our outhouse. Just a nice simple job this. We've got a cheap piece of worktop which I'm just going to put along here. So it was just to give you a heads up the approach that I'll take just to make it nice and secure and to do the job. Okay, so in terms of tools and equipment you're going to need for this job, you're going to need a circular saw to cut your worktop down to size, and then the appropriate PPE. I've got the old shatterproof safety glasses, ear protection and gloves. You're going to then need your hammer drill with a masonry bit, the appropriate size for the wall plugs you're going to be using, again to drill the holes into the wall for your brackets. I'm just going to be using 2 brackets. If this isn't sufficient, then I'm going to put an upright in. I'll show you how to do that if applicable. And then screws for the brackets to go into the worktop, wall plug and screws to attach the brackets to the wall, pencil and a Sharpie. Then I've got my right angle, an impact driver, tape measure, and then I've got a long spirit level as well. Okay, so before launching then, there's just a little bit of planning to do and a bit of measuring up, because as you can see here, we've got these pipes which are the boiler pipes essentially, and water heating pipes for our house, because our boiler's just situated in the other corner. So I'm not going to be able to butt the worktop up to here. So what I'm going to do instead is have it the left hand edge on this end here, and then again I'm going to put some brackets down the back and then seat the worktop on top of the brackets. I'll have an upright here, and at the other end if needs be, I'll gauge that once the worktop's in place, and then the worktop's going to come along, and then I just need to be aware that I've left enough space for the door to open and close. So I'm going to bring the worktop to around here. So I've done my measuring and it's about 130 length that I need, so I can now go and do my cut on the worktop. Okay, so I've measured my 130. Now what I want, because this side is going to be showing in the outhouse, I don't want to cut say from this end to here, because then I'll have the cut edge showing. So I'm leaving that end as it is, and I'm marking 130 down on my tape measure. I've marked the 130 spot there, and now what I can do is use my right angle or set square, and just pop the pencil line on the mark, bring the set square up to there, and then I know I've got my right angle there. So what I'm going to do on the other side again is mark my 130, repeat the process, and then use a longer length just to join those 2 lines. Okay, so I've got all my PPE on, got the safety glasses, hearing protection, got my gloves, and now I'm going to use the circular saw to cut along the line that I marked with the pencil. And again, it's a good idea, make sure it's a nice thick line so that you can follow it nice and easily with the circular saw. Again, if you've got a workbench, that's ideal. I don't have one that's going to be able to take this worktop, so what I've done instead is I'm going over our sloped ground and just made sure there's no obstructions underneath as I run the circular saw over the line. So position it like so, and then I'm going to make one straight cut right the way along. Next thing I'm doing then, I'm just positioning this bracket in this corner, and I want the worktop to sit just above the level of the washing machine. I don't want it to rest on the washing machine, because when this is in use, the vibrations will vibrate on the worktop and start interfering with the brackets and the screws. So what I'm doing is just eyeballing here that is just sitting above the worktop, the washing machine height. And now what I can do is take my long spirit level, place that on like so, and then adjust the height of the other bracket until it's nice and level. So before you do any drilling into any walls, be it masonry or any walls inside the house, always check that there's no cables embedded in the walls. Okay, so you can get your sort of cable detectors, or you can either speak to your electrician if they've done any work recently, just to get an idea of if there's any cables embedded. So I've checked this wall and I know it's good to drill. So with those two brackets now nice and level, I've measured across, make sure they're less than the 130 centimeters, the length or width I should say of the worktop itself. So now I can use my Sharpie to mark on the wall where I now need to put the wall plugs. Now before I start drilling, I've marked off the depth I need to go to, and all I've done for that is just held the wall plug up at the end of the drill bit and then marked with tape how deep I need to go into the masonry itself. So now I'll get the old PPE on and start drilling the holes that I've marked on the wall. Okay, so I'm ready to go with the hammer drill. If you're going into masonry, it's always worthwhile having it on the hammer setting, because that's going to help drive the drill into the masonry itself. And then when you're actually drilling, you've got your handle to keep the drill nice and secure, and you want to come at a right angle to the wall. Okay, so you can put a little bit of weight behind it and then start drilling. Okay, so I'm just going to position the drill onto the hole, give it a little mark. And you'll notice at the end I went in and out a bit. That's just to pull the dust out. Now I can give it a blow and then move on to the next hole. So now I have my wall plugs and I'm just going to gently pop them in. Again, if you have any issues pushing them all the way until they're flush with the wall, then just give them a gentle tap with a hammer. If you find you haven't gone deep enough, then again, just drill again until you've gone to the required depth. So I position the bracket in place, position my first screw, and then you can use a screwdriver, or I'm using an impact driver in this instance. I won't tighten all the way, because when I get the other 3 screws in place, then I'll do any little adjustments to make sure this is nice and level, exactly where I want it, and then I'll do a final tighten down of the 3 screws for this particular bracket. So with that bracket in place, I'm now going to repeat the process for the other bracket. So the brackets are now in place. I can now pop the worktop on top and I can get it perfectly in position and then drill up into the worktop. I use my impact driver and the screws to then attach the worktop onto the brackets themselves. Once that's done, and if it needs an upright in the near side corners, then I'll add those in then. So I've decided, just for a bit of confidence, and because we're going to be putting some fairly weighty stuff on this worktop, that I am going to use an upright, but I'm just going to use the one on this near side left hand corner. So there's a bit of extra kit I'm going to need. I've got a 90-degree bracket and then appropriate size screws as well, and then something that's going to use as an upright. So I've got a nice thick piece of offcut from a thicker worktop from another kitchen. So what I'm going to do now is just mark off a line for the height that I need. This will then slide under and use the bracket to hold this under the worktop and bolted or screwed on to the upright itself. So that's the upright in place. So just make sure it's nice and level vertically, double check that the worktop is nice and level with the upright in place. Then I'm going to pop my bracket in and mark on the worktop and the upright itself the positions to drill the holes, and then I can use wood screws just to drill straight in from there. I've decided to set the upright back slightly, just from an aesthetic point of view. I think it looks better set back rather than flush with the end of the worktop. Okay, fantastic, really happy with that. I've made sure it's all level. I've screwed in to the underside of the worktop onto the brackets. Again, I'm nice and confident that there isn't an upright needed on this side. If, however, at a later stage, if we're putting particularly heavy stuff on, then of course I will put another upright in here. But at the moment, we don't need it, and it looks like a floating worktop, which means we've got plenty of usable space underneath to pop all our kit. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, share and subscribe to help other beaters out there too. Take care.